Welcome back, Albert here. Today we will be talking about the very brief rule of Tar-Alcarin, the 17th ruler of Numenor. Tar-Alcarin was the son of Tar-Vanimeldë and Herucalmo, later known as the Usurper King. Tar-Alcarin's name meant King Glorious. There is no information on his youth, but one can make some interesting assumptions about his upbringing. As you would have learned from my previous video, his mother, Tar-Vanimeldë, was not a great ruler of Numenor. In fact, from historical records, she was only concerned with music and dancing, leaving his father, Herucalmo, to rule the state. So in his youth, I can see him attending many dances and festivals, all arranged by his mother, of course, or in tribute to his mother as ruling queen. He may even have been a central part of these festive years as Prince Heir. He would have attended all the best events, and I like to imagine he could have been his mother's partner in crime, socially. Now, if this was the case, this may explain why his father did what he did when his mother died. As you would have learned from my last video, when Tar-Vanimeldë died, the Sceptre of Numenor did not go to Tar-Alcarin, the Prince Heir. Instead, his father withheld the scepter from him and declared himself king, taking the name of Tar-Anducal, a name that meant Light of the West. Never before in Númenorean history has this ever happened. He was known as the usurper, and as far as the Númenorean historians were concerned, he was not recognized in the line of kings as the 17th ruler of Numenor. I am curious why the Council of Sceptre allowed this. It truly shows what kind of position Herucalmo held as head of state, and within the council itself. Politically, at this stage, the council was composed mostly of the King's Men faction, with some of the faithful. If there was any opposition to this usurper, it would have probably come mostly from the faithful. With the expansion of the kingdom in full swing, I can probably see why the King's Men accepted this drop in tradition, and yet I still find it very surprising. Why didn't Tar-Alcarin oppose his father and take the throne as the rightful king? Why did his father do this? I have 3 theories. Number 1, perhaps he feared his father. Perhaps he wasn't a strong-willed man, and when his father made this decision, he lacked the courage to stop him. His father had technically been ruler of the kingdom all this time while the queen enjoyed life, and there is a chance his son both feared and respected him, and did not see a problem in this ascension, although the people of Numenor might have felt differently about it. Number 2, Tar-Alcarin was too much like his mother, and his father couldn't trust him to rule correctly. Perhaps, as I imagined earlier in my video, Tar-Alcarin was very much part of his mother's festive adventures and displayed a disinterest in the responsibility which his father saw, and so he felt, perhaps, that the kingdom would benefit more if he became king. Number 3, Tar-Alcarin stood up to his father when he took the throne, but his father had more support in the council and opposed him, perhaps placing Tar-Alcarin into exile for a time, like a king in waiting. But Tar-Alcarin would continue to protest his right to rule, perhaps sowing doubt into the people throughout the years. Now, these are all merely theories, of course. It's hard to know what really happened. The island of Numenor fell under Tar-Anducal's doubtful rule for 20 years, until he died in 2657 SA at the age of 371. When he finally died, the rightful heir, his son, would take up the scepter and would be named Tar-Alcarin. Better late than never, I suppose. Tar-Alcarin would only rule for 80 more years. A very brief rule, dying in the year 2737 SA, survived by his only son, Tar-Alcarin. Thus ended the life of Tar-Alcarin. An interesting turn of events, I must say. It's hard to get my head around the shift in the Númenóreans during this period. I would love to understand the relationship within this family. It would help understand more about why it happened this way and why his father did this. One could glaze over it and say his father had a slight lust for power, as he ruled the state of Numenor for so long and felt like he deserved it more than his son. Perhaps he felt the queen took advantage of him, and his reward would be at least to sit on the throne, because he was her husband and he did all the work while she ruled. Who knows? It does spark the imagination, I must say. One thing did stand out for me though. Tar-Alcarin's name meant King Glorious. I don't know why, but I feel like this expressed something. Perhaps his victory over his father finally after he died. Or perhaps the feelings of the people when he finally sat on the throne and they were relieved the true king was back. Hard to tell. A nice thought experiment. I hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to subscribe, comment and like if you enjoyed this aspect of Tolkien's lore. And as always, may the light of Yarandil guide your way.